First and foremost, to know if you're progressing on your path is to have the evidence that you're progressing on your path. So the first rule that we have is called non-camping. Yes, that is the first rule, the most important rule of non-camping. Majority of those who practice consciousness and spirituality, majority are camping. Camping means staying exactly where they are still and still doing the same practices that they were doing for the last few years and just having more experiences without actually raising their consciousness. So this is a definition of camping. How do you know if you're actually progressing towards the level of consciousness? When you open towards a higher level of consciousness, it's a completely different reality. It's a completely different perception of yourself and reality. And evidence is what we have as the personal charts, where we measure your level of consciousness. And then once we do the measurement, we always discuss and confirm. Are you there? How do you feel? Are you experiencing these symptoms of that level of consciousness? Are you experiencing these side effects of that level of consciousness? And what is your medicine to progress higher? What are the steps and the practices to progress higher? So we discuss all of that, and a person always verifies that yes, it does seem that I must be at inner light, inner love or presence, because this is my experience, and this is my usual meditations are like this, and I usually experience that, and I know that I'm not in non-duality or awareness, because that's a bit like what's that, you know, and something below is, yeah, I've done that a few years ago. So a person always confirms and verifies that yes, they're there. So evidence is the actual measurement of level of consciousness, and then a discussion to verify that yes, that is the case. So then you know how much you have progressed, what's the next step, what you have to do, and you have a whole GPS in front of you. That's amazing, isn't it? It's the consciousness GPS, the spiritual GPS. There hasn't been anything like this in the whole history. How do you know where you are towards enlightenment and what's your next step is? And that's where levels of consciousness come in. Because levels of consciousness clearly define the steps towards full consciousness, enlightenment. And that is how you know where you are and what is the next step. Because for most of the seekers, consciousness, spiritual seekers, there is a big confusion where they are. Because they have a certain experience and many of them think that they're already there. Or certain people say, well, on the other hand, certain people can say, I'm nowhere close because I still have so many bad qualities. You see, that's a big one. You know, so in one way a person may have experience and think they're much higher than they truly are, or another person will self-diminish and think that they're much lower than they truly are, because they're lacking clarity of knowing where they actually are. So that clarity are the levels of consciousness. And this is a very, very common question, because for those who are not familiar about levels of consciousness, there is a lot of unclarity. A lot of unclarity. There is more unclarity than clarity for those who are not familiar with the levels of consciousness. So most likely one will think they're higher than they are or they're lower than they are. Only maybe 10% of the people that I know would actually be where they think they are. Only 10%. Mostly they would think higher or lower actually. So they're very unclear. And especially when it comes to experiences. Because there are so many experiences. And what do they mean? Am I already there because I had this experience? Or no way, next week or last week I had such a terrible time, I must be so low right now. You know, like it's another experience, a good experience, bad experience. But what is the actual level of consciousness? You know, so that brings a lot of clarification. So once you know at which level of consciousness you are, then you know the next step forward. Because if you are in presence consciousness, then you know that the next step is non-duality. And then you know that there are certain practices to do that will actually get you to non-duality. If one is at presence and they are still practicing what they have been practicing for the last 10 years, most likely they will not move any much forward. Or if somebody is in inner light and they're trying to practice self-inquiry into the self, it's not working either, because they're not ready yet for that practice. So I meet so many people who are so confused about practices, because many people come to certain teachings, and I had many people who come to me and say, I've been practicing non-duality so much, and I've been meeting some teachers, and I really understand non-duality. And we make a measurement of the level of consciousness, and they are at 350 of acceptance or optimism. So it means that all that stuff about non-duality is simply in their head. There's nothing experiential. So they need to practice inner love, inner light, to actually make a step forward. And they should forget a bit for a while about non-duality, because it's not getting them anywhere. They're just getting more mentally confused, or mentally traumatizing themselves. That why I can't get there, because it's way too far. You know, most likely a person needs, if a person does the practices towards the next level of consciousness, they will much quicker get eventually where they want to get. You know, so this is how knowing your level of consciousness brings so much clarity towards what practices you should do. So you shouldn't do the practices that you have done for the last 5 years, because it means they're not working anymore. And you shouldn't do practices that are way too high if they're not working for you at all, if they are making you more constricted or more confused. So knowing the level of consciousness is extremely important, because you will have total clarity. And if you focus exactly on the next step, eventually you will get much faster to your ultimate goal. For the very first time when you meet Enlightenment teacher, you know, immediately what do you see? You see certain qualities. You see certain qualities, and immediately you start thinking that enlightenment is like that. So it must be about happiness, because they look so happy, you know, these teachers. Or you see another enlightened teacher, they speak about love. So enlightenment must be love. You meet another teacher, he speaks about emptiness. Hold on. So happiness, love, now emptiness. You know, and then as you keep on meeting more teachers and more teachings, you start discovering so many things. That there are so many qualities. Yes, there are so many qualities. These qualities are of a higher vibrations, but the quality in itself is not enlightenment. The quality in itself, I could say, it is a fragrance. It is like the ray of the sun. But what is the source of the ray of the sun? It is the sun. So what is the source of love? It is consciousness. What we also call full consciousness, or the big now, the boundless big now. So that is the source of the qualities, virtues, and fragrances. It is the place from where happiness comes, love comes, joy comes, peace comes. So these are qualities. These are qualities. This is very important to understand that peace is a quality of consciousness. Love, happiness, joy, bliss even, or complete emptiness, we could say, or being untouched, we could say. These are qualities. So what is the actual enlightenment then? What is the actual realization? The actual enlightenment is a realization of your deepest self. It is not about becoming all loving. It is not about becoming super peaceful. It is not about becoming happy-go-lucky bubble. You know, these are qualities. But enlightenment is about realizing your deepest self. I will repeat, realizing your deepest self. So when you watch other teachers, they have their qualities. Yes, every teacher has different qualities, depending on how much they have worked on those qualities as well. But enlightenment is about realizing your deepest self. And the qualities that you already have, are meant to be improved. The qualities that you already have. The good qualities are meant to be enhanced. The negative qualities are meant to be purified and cleaned, so that the qualities that you already have become pure qualities. But that is, by definition, purifying your qualities. It is not about enlightenment. So now you see a big confusion what is happening, that nearly everybody, and if you're honest, you are also thinking exactly like that enlightenment is about equality of happiness and joy and peace and love or bliss. So if anybody is honest, you will recognize that yes, this is what I was kind of thinking about. So enlightenment is about realizing your deepest self. Your deepest self is already aware and conscious now. So enlightenment is the source from which happiness comes, the source from which love comes, from which peace comes. And you see, certain qualities are natural to you. Some of you are already very joyous naturally. Some of you are more peaceful naturally. And that is meant to be enhanced. Enhanced, and the obstacles removed, that which gives you trouble. So, in terms of qualities, it's a never-ending perfection. It's a never-ending perfection. Why it is so? It is a never-ending path of perfection because the way you are designed. So every single one of you has 7 major energy centers, which we call chakras. And within every chakra there are many thousands of channels of specific qualities. For those who are familiar with chakras, you know that every chakra has many qualities. So every major chakra has many qualities, many channels, which are called nadis. And there are 52,000 nadis. That is gonna keep you a long time working on them. So if you are familiar with many teachers, they have been always perfecting their qualities. Even to the very, very top of Krishna and Shiva and Buddha and so forth and Jesus, they were always perfecting certain qualities. Because nadis are always enhancing, always evolving, always perfecting, opening, purifying. So let's be clear that this is the path of perfecting oneself, the path of perfecting yourself. And this path is what we generally call energy work. It's a never-ending work. It's a never-ending evolution of perfecting yourself. And then there is another branch, which is enlightenment, which is self-realization. That is different, and we need to be clear about that. So self-realization, it is about realizing, knowing absolutely who you truly are, beyond the slightest doubt. That is self-realization, knowing who you truly are without a slightest doubt. And the qualities are of energy. Yes, there are thousands of qualities. They are of the nature of energy. And that is a never-ending path of perfection. So this is one of the biggest ever spiritual confusions. Because everybody's thinking that enlightenment is only like this, only like that. It's about this quality and that quality, or it must be like this teacher, or do I need to become like Mindo? No, I can't, he's too far, and it's not about that, you don't need to become me. You need to become you and realize yourself. And when you realize yourself, you can continue perfecting yourself, because that will never stop. So anytime you read or watch any videos on any kind of enlightenment teachings, you need to have that distinction. What is about qualities and what is about realizing who you truly are. So this is a big clarification of one of the fundamental confusions that every single person has.
There is also something coming up. There is a connection, isn't there a connection between those realizing yourself and the energy work?
There is a connection, yes, that when you give a lot of time to work on the qualities of perfection, then you actually start showing those qualities of perfection. So enlightened teachers do show many qualities of perfection. But having the qualities of perfection versus realizing who you are, it's a different thing. So yes, they're connected, but realizing who you are can happen a lot quicker than you will achieve your most highest perfection of your qualities. That is going to take a long time. Perfecting your qualities is going to take years and years and years. Even if enlightenment happens suddenly, which is very rarely, but it happens, a person, enlightened being, takes time to integrate, and we could say perfect, his or hers realization of what happened, how it happened, what does it mean, and to start portraying those qualities. For majority, enlightenment happens step by step, with some jumps in between are possible, and then those certain qualities are already perfected on the way. But qualities take a lot of work, a lot of time, because that is becoming more and more perfect version of yourself. A more perfect version of yourself. Enlightenment is about becoming yourself, realizing who you are in your core, in your essence, in your source of your being, and then perfecting yourself. That is evolution. That's gonna take time, effort, obstacles, so that's gonna take time. Okay.
So just one more additional question to clarify. Is it not at all needed then to work on the qualities before enlightenment?
To work on the qualities before enlightenment is not really needed, but to clear the obstacles, and most of them are in your energy system of your chakras, including your subconsciousness, which are known as conditionings. These obstacles need to be cleared. So now I'm clarifying, obstacles need to be cleared. Perfectionism is still another thing. Yes?
Give an example, like of how those are related, in the sense, because you said perfectionism and obstacles are different. So you give an example of a situation where there is an obstacle and then there's perfecting.
Yes, yes. So let's say you had a traumatic experience in the past, and that might be blocking consciousness. So that needs to be healed and cleared. Versus becoming a more loving being is a quality of perfection. Becoming more kind, more loving, more understanding, and so forth, or generally more happy, it's a quality of perfectionism.
So removing the trauma would be clearing the obstacle.
Clearing the obstacle. Certain obstacles need to be cleared. Perfecting your qualities is another job. So you understand now that, like, wow, so it means there's a more direct way. There is a more direct and faster way. It's more clear, you know, what it's all about. Okay. An immediate self-realization is possible, but extremely rare. That is the truth. Possible, but extremely rare. Even if you would have a very fast realization, what happens next? Your whole reality shifts upside down, and you need to spend quite a few years to actually stabilize in that immediate realization. So doesn't that take time as well? Of course it takes time. And if you name any being who enlightened fast, which are very few actually, and you then look at what they did after their realization, you will see that they spent years of either not speaking or simply sitting in the cave or on a bench and hardly being able to explain what happened. And then after about 5-7 years or so, then they start to explain that, oh, I had a huge awakening, and this is what it means. So in the West, I would recommend you perhaps not to aim for a super fast realization, because you will become very dysfunctional. If you're in India, it's slightly easier. You know, if you become realized, then Indians, for them it's quite common thing to see, you know, some realized people just sitting under the tree or in a cave, because this is Indian culture. It is actually better to take your time to go step by step. You can also jump certain levels of consciousness as long as you are ready. Yes, as long as you are ready. I will never push you too far. I can, but I will not. I will never push you too far. I will push you, but not too far. You know, I will surely move you, surely push you, but not too far that you cannot handle it. So I will always know it and examine you how much you can handle, and I will push you right to that edge where you can handle it. You know, to give you as much as you can handle. You know, so that is a mature, responsible, and integrative way of helping you to realize yourself as fast as possible. With some people it can take just 6 months, a year. Some people take 2 years, 5 years. It depends how ready you are, how strong you are, how willing you are. So it all depends on your readiness. I can push you very far, but you need to be able to handle it. It's just like electricity, you know, you can't put your fingers in a too high voltage because you will fry up. So I always adjust the voltage of how much you can handle electricity in your system. So immediate awakening is possible, or jumping through levels of consciousness is possible, as long as you're able to handle it. And that is the best way. Luckily, there are more and more enlightened teachers available, because in the old days, like 30 years ago, 50 years ago, there were not that many enlightened teachers, or you couldn't find them on YouTube. So this is why it was all a big taboo, you know, what is enlightenment? Maybe you just heard something, or found a book somewhere, or maybe watched on a television for a few moments, you know, or got an audio tape in the recent or older days. But now if you go on YouTube, it's like, wow, there are so many teachers and so many ways, so many different ways. And this is amazing that you can realize the diversity, and you can understand that it's not about qualities, first of all, because that's confusion number one. And then you can do a bit of inquiry. How effective are the teachings of the teacher? You know, like, how is the community progressing? You know, how many people are actually awakening in their community? You know, so how is effective that teacher at helping others? Or, on another note, some of them are humanitarian. So they focuses more about healing diseases, you know, helping people who are sick. And it's not really about enlightenment, it's just helping people with basic needs. You know, being a humanitarian. So, yet again, you need to inquire. You know, what is their focus? You know, what are they doing? And to see, you know, if that is something that you want to do as well. You know, so you will always, with a certain inquiry, you can find out so much about any teacher. And then to decide for yourself you know, what is your goal. You know, it's to help others, to realize yourself first, and help others. You know, what is your goal and who can help you with that? Because essentially it is about your realization, isn't it? It's about your freedom, isn't it? So this needs to be inquired in a non-judgmental way, you know. Every teacher is benefiting immensely to humanity, so there is no judgment. It's just discovering more of what they do, how they do it. Is it your goal as well to follow this way? You know, judgment, forget about it, because judgment will close your doors. Judgment closes the doors. This is very, very important. As soon as you start judging someone, you're closing the doors and you're giving yourself more trouble. So never judge, but it's good to inquire and find out more of the, we could say, of the benefits, you know, of the mutual goal, of the mutual vision. This is how you should inquire. Of the benefits, mutual goal, mutual vision, effectiveness, and then you can decide. If you feel a resonance, if you feel that there is a mutual benefit, that you will grow in the way that you want to grow, whether in your qualities, in your service to others, or in your self-realization. So in the way that you want to grow, then you find resonance with a specific path or a teacher. So first you need to inquire into yourself, what is my goal? And then to start looking who can help you to achieve those goals. Because some people, you know, are focused on helping others. That is their goal. Some people are very dedicated at self-realization. Some people just want to be part of a nice community. That is their goal, just to hang around. You know, so that is their goal. Some people just want to have fun, and that is their goal. You know, so what is your goal? And when you know what is your goal of your growth, hopefully non-camping, because we have a policy of non-camping. So we will never allow you to kind of camp on where you are. We will always help you grow. So once you know what you truly want, then you will find a resonance on a higher consciousness, higher vibration. So the key is not in avoiding, first of all, difficult thoughts, emotions and energies. It's not in avoiding, it's not in wishing that they don't ever come. It is about transcending them and becoming strong, clear and bright, so that when they come, that they're simply like a bird flying in the sky while you are the sky, so that you are untouched, unaffected. How do we do that? Is by realizing your true self as consciousness, as boundless now, and settling the waves of energies into the infinite consciousness of now. A wave comes up and you realize it, that's the wave, let it settle. If you resist it, it's gonna get stronger. If you avoid it, it's gonna start bending. If you try to deny it, it's gonna be blocked. So you need to fully allow it, have no resistance, let it be, but let it flow and settle, remaining yourself as boundless now. So that's where the question, boundless now, how about that? So that already implies that there are certain bondages, that there are certain conditionings, and they need to be settled. In the usual terminology, we could say healed and transcended or settled. So we need to look at the key conditionings, at the key waves of thoughts, emotions, energies, and how to settle them so that your awareness, consciousness becomes boundless, like a whole ocean, which then doesn't really mind of the surface waves. First, you need to realize the full consciousness and then to settle all the waves into it. That's the step number 2.
So, in other terms, basically, unless you, because this is how I'm understanding it, unless you reach full consciousness, you can't really attain freedom.
You can attain a certain freedom. Absolute freedom is when you realize the source of yourself and when you settle all the waves into the infinite ocean of now. And at that point, in the middle point, you will also realize the way of the right relationship with energies, emotions and thoughts. Speaking on a higher vibration, you realize the way with energies and life. Why do I have these waves? Why are they so big or so low, so up and down? What is the right relationship with the waves? What is the way of life? That is in the middle. You realize yourself, that is one task, and then what is the way to be with energies, arising thoughts, emotions. And once you fully align with the way, then all the waves start settling. And your consciousness liberates more and more into boundlessness. First, to realize yourself, it is even before boundlessness. First step is to realize full consciousness. Then to have the right relationship with the now, and then everything settles in. That's what we generally call stabilization or integration. When everything settles in, then you are totally free.
Opening full consciousness, it does, and of course definitely drops down all the doubt, or like there's no doubt anymore. It's total clear seeing of your true self. But I don't even call that true liberation just yet, because true liberation, absolute liberation, is when these waves
settle.
Totally settle in.
Yes.
And only then could be experienced absolute liberation.
Yes. First liberation is liberation by realizing your true self. That is already liberation. Because you have no doubts who you are truly. You're no longer searching for something. You're no longer looking for something. You know where home is now. Consciousness fully. But then it takes generally between 1 to 7 years to settle all the waves into that full consciousness. This is how it usually happens. So full consciousness can come actually very fast. You know, just in a very short amount of time, full consciousness can come. And that is already the biggest ever relief. Because that search, yearning, looking, and dissatisfaction with not finding, that is gone. You found yourself fully. And then it takes some time to settle all the ways, which I call stabilization, integration. Settling all the ways.
Is that the measurement you have of
integration?
Yeah, so in the chart.
Yeah, in the chart it is the integration.
I was wondering why you, as in the real you, want to help us, or raise our.
Yes, yes, yes. Consciousness has brightness, and that brightness automatically has a purpose to raise vibration of anything which is around this vessel, which is a vessel of the big now, of the boundless now. So since I am the big now, the boundless now, automatically the purpose is to raise energy, to raise vibration of the immediate environment, what is everywhere around. But since humanity is not so good, and everybody has so many problems, so it becomes very natural to help those who have problems, to those who need help. Because when you meet a cat or a dog, they're quite happy in their own nature, if humans don't cause them problems. You know, so nature in itself is very perfect the way it is. But humanity has a lot of progress to be made. There are a lot of disharmonies, distortions of the way and of the brightness of consciousness. So there is a big gap between nature, universe, and how low the humanity is on a scale of the universal energy. So that's my goal, or it's not even a goal, it's very natural to simply help those who need help. Not only in my immediate environment, but in my field of awareness. In the field of awareness of this being. Consciousness is absolute, but this being has a field of awareness, and my field of awareness is galactic field of awareness. So I not only know the matters in this room, I know the matters of this earth, I know the matters of the solar system and of the galaxy. So my field of awareness harmonizes energies, not only here physically, but also in the earth, solar system, galaxy. That is my field of awareness through which I work and function as this being, manifested being. So thus actually my 99% of work is actually not visible. Even though there is a lot of work visibly happening, but 99% is non-visible. And that has to do with the whole earth and whole humanity and solar system and galaxy. Because there are quite many distortions, mainly in this solar system and this earth and humanity. Most of the galaxy, 99.9%, is very perfectly harmonious. with specifically this place of the solar system and this Earth, the Moon as well, and then certain other planets in the solar system, they have certain issues. And I'm aware of them and I'm working on them. Just like you're aware of what's happening in your work or in your family, that's your field of awareness. Some people are very interested in politics, that's their field of awareness. They have little power there though, but that's their interest. That's another thing, to have awareness of certain things, but where is your power to do things, to make changes? So if you're watching and arguing about politicians on the TV screen, most likely you have little or no power of anything what is actually spoken on the television, unless when you go and actually vote. So 99% of all the discussions about politics is useless crap. It has no power, no effect whatsoever. Unless you have actually power to do something. Then, if politics is your way, go for it. If economics is your way, go for it. So you also should place your interest where your power is and where you can grow. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, which is very limited on this earth. 80 years is nothing compared to the millions and billions of years of universe. So use your time wisely, use your opportunity wisely, and know what you want. This is the way. That is a good introduction to the way. To be with your power, with your goal towards evolution, realization and evolution.